Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Sunday, December 17th, and we are continuing to talk about the schemes of the devil. Last week, we talked about the ways that Satan takes things that God has created and puts our focus on the creation rather than on the creator. So as I was continuing to do this study, one of the things that really jumped out at me was the word schemes. So I started to do a word search of that, and I found that there is a Greek word called methodeia, and it is only used twice in the Bible. Here's what it means. It literally means a craft, a wiliness, a method of taking taxes or debt. It means to follow up or investigate by method or settled plan, to frame devices to deceive, and it's about cunning arts, deceitfulness, trickery. And as I was reading through this, one of the things that's popping into my head, just as I'm talking here right now, is those people who do commit fraud or take advantage of people to get money out of them and things like that. It's making me think of those situations. You know, you get all these spam calls and they're trying to get your money and they're saying there's a warrant for your arrest. And, you know, we see it all over the place in the media. That is this word scheme in the Greek. Now, where does it show up in our Bible? This was very interesting to me. Well, it shows up in Ephesians 4, and it doesn't show up till verse 14. I'm going to stop on that word schemes, but I think if we back up to verse 11, we're going to get a lot more information. And it says, "And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ." Stop here. I want to point out one very important thing here. He did not give those people in those 5 roles to do the work of building God's kingdom. He gave them to support and come underneath the believers and encourage them as they go out and build the kingdom. Building the kingdom is not the pastor's job. It's every believer's job. Continuing on. "Until we all attain the unity of faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ." There's a lot in there to break down, and it's important that we break it down. First of all, those leaders are there to help build the unity within the body of Christ, so we are all working together. And that unity is in our faith and the knowledge of the Son of God. And when we have that faith with that knowledge coming together, it brings us to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Does that mean we're sin-free? No, we still mess up. But what that means is we have the full righteousness of Jesus Christ. It means that we have dived in, we put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ. We are not holding back. Then we get to this verse 14. Why did all that happen? It's right here in 14. "So that we may no longer be children." So we're no longer naive to what Satan is doing. We are to be aware of what Satan's doing. "Tossed to and fro by the waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness in deceitful schemes." Now, when we use the law of first mention to understand what schemes means, it's a method, it's a plan, it's intentional, it's very purposeful. And children can get tossed by the waves in the sea. I'm thinking of the latest toy. All the kids want the latest toy, and in 2 months they're sick of it, and now they're on to another latest toy. We are not to be like that. We are to stay very focused and grounded in our relationship with Christ. Where does this verse show up in another place? Well, that's in Ephesians 6, and ironically enough, not ironic at all, I'm kind of being sarcastic here, it is in the whole armor of God. Keep in mind, that armor of God does not mean that you specialize in one piece. It means that you have all of it. You need every single piece. And in verse 11, it says, Put on the whole armor of God that you may stand against the schemes of the devil. Exact same word. And it makes me think of manipulation and how often we see that people try to manipulate. Well, a lot of times, what's happening is Satan is manipulating somebody, and then that person is trying to manipulate somebody else, and then that person's trying to manipulate somebody else. And before you know it, you have an entire church split that's happening because the unity fell apart. These schemes are very toxic, and we are to be very aware of them. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.